Good morning, everybody. Welcome to TradeThirsty's Morning Market Mixer. This is going to be a live show that we do every day, Monday to Thursday, for the whole of March Madness. So just March Madness, we're going to be going live every morning at 10 a.m. Eastern Time, and we're going to go through the market updates. And so if you guys haven't met me yet, my name is Russell Barbour. I started trading 12 years ago. I had a really rough start to the markets, as a lot of people do. And basically, I was in a lot of student loan debt, and I lost $20,000 chasing the market pretty quickly. So, yeah, it was an interesting time. It was very stressful as a postdoc in Seattle, and it was definitely a very stressful time to start trading the market. So I had a real struggle over the years. It was basically over trading, over positioning. I couldn't find a strategy that actually worked really well for me. I was focusing on being right, which really wasn't just the key to success. It took me many years before I actually became a successful trader. Nowadays, I actually focus on intraday SPY options and in particular zero DTE trading with just one quality setup per day, usually in the mornings. It's defined by really clear entries and exits and a very strict risk management system. So my story is like a lot of other people's out there. It took me a long time to become a profitable trader. But these days, I'm doing a lot better and enjoying trading a lot more than I did back in the day when I was really stressed out trading at a very early morning. Seattle, the market opens at 6:30 a.m. and I was trading the market open with penny stocks of all things. And it was extremely stressful time for me. So luckily, I've moved on to zero DTE trading. That's what we're going to talk about in today's session. And we're going to look at a lot of different things. Before I get into all of the market and the news that's come out recently, this is some of the resources that I use. So if you're familiar with TradingView, it's one of the best platforms out there to trade the markets with for your charting. So I'm going to be using TradingView. I look at Earnings Hub every morning for potential market moving earnings, either post-market or pre-market. Use barchart.com for SPY levels. And also there's a cheat sheet that I'm going to share with you guys in just a minute, which details the strategy and the basics of zero DTE trading. So here's the QR code if you want to get the cheat sheet. So you just scan the QR code. I'll give you a couple of minutes to do that while we go through the cheat sheet itself. So if you scan the QR code or go to tradethirsty.com/MMM. I'll also post that in the chat here as well. And by the way, if you're in the chat, just say hello. I always like to know who's actually watching this. Here's the cheat sheet URL if you just want to click that. Might be easier than scanning the QR code if you want to see it on something other than your phone. I don't use my phone that much for these things, but I thought I'd include the QR code for easiness. If you're maybe watching this, the replay of this, you can scan the QR code and you can't see the chat so easily. Anyway, let's go through the cheat sheet like we do every morning. We'll just go through it fairly quickly here. So I'm going to share the cheat sheet tab for you guys. So this is what you get with the cheat sheet. Just want to go through very quickly again for people that are new what 0 days to expiration is. So zero DTE is 0 days to expiration. So these are contracts that are traded the same day. So you're just looking at short-term price movements within that session. So typically 10, 20, 30 minutes max with these trades because they do lose value pretty quickly, these zero DTE contracts from theta decay. So you have to be in and out fairly quickly. You certainly don't want to, in my opinion, be holding these contracts near market close. That becomes kind of more gambling as you can lose your whole position or a huge chunk of that position. So I try and scalp in the mornings. So like about this time, slightly after we do these sessions, seems to be the optimum time for these strategies. So yeah, so you're looking for the small scalps, typically 10, 20% scalps on these zero DTE instruments, like SPY, like Qs. The Qs and SPY work really well because they've got really tight spreads and get fast order execution. Of course, risk management is essential. You want to use smaller position sizes, predefined stops, and have a daily stop loss limit to avoid large drawdowns that can come from zero DTE trading. So here's a quick recap of the potential benefits of zero DTE trading. One, you can use lower upfront capital compared to if you're trading longer term contracts or if you're trading shares. You've got a risk-defined premium because they're pretty cheap, typically $100, $150 per contract, depending on the volatility that day. You have lots of daily trading opportunities. So these things move fast, so you don't need big moves in the market to make significant profits, sometimes 20 to 50% within just a couple of minutes is not unheard of. The downsides are you have rapid time decay, so these contracts will lose money if the market's just going sideways, which is very nasty. I don't like that at all, so I like to be in and out of the market as quickly as possible and try and predict the direction without too much delay. And so you have to remember that these trades are very emotional because of the massive movements these things can make. It amplifies all the usual emotions that are associated with trading. So it's not for everybody. Here's what I'm going to do today a little bit. This is what my daily routine looks like. I'll go through it again today like I do Monday to Thursday. So I start preparing pre-market before 10 a.m. I mark up the highs and lows, pre-market levels, look at VWAP, the moving averages for the day. I mark the opening range, so I use the 30-minute opening range, so that first 30-minute candle. And then we start to check the bias around this time or just after. We start to look at if the price is moving outside the opening range, either to the upside or the downside. We also look at VWAP and whether we're stacking candles outside those ranges as well. So these are high probability setups, and you want to have strict risk management here. Like, you don't want to be trading in the middle of the opening range. So we'll look at that on the charts in just a minute here, see how things are looking. So yeah, so that's the cheat sheet. Make sure you grab it if you don't have it yet. And let's go back to the slides here. Go back to here. So hopefully you've had a chance to get the cheat sheet there. And let's keep going here. So quick overview of SPY. This is the only instrument I've been trading for the last few years. It's awesome because it has 500 stocks. So you're basically trading 500 stocks in one go. You don't need to worry about scanning or local news to do with particular companies or halts or earnings or any of that nonsense. You've got this one ticker, makes life really simple. It's an ETF, obviously, exchange traded fund, and it was the first US ETF ever listed back in 1993. It's also the most liquid ETF out there. It's among the most traded ETFs globally, so really worth trading SPY for execution purposes, and also just because it's so liquid and you're not exposing yourself to one particular stock. So a couple of people saying hello. Hi, Dang Dang. Hi, Listler Peak. So yeah, hi guys. I'm glad you're saying hello in the chat. So it's good. So here's an agenda for the day. So we're going to go through our SPY ATM alert recap. So every day there's a SPY ATM alert. It's a premium service I help run. And we basically go through that every day in this chat. So that basically gives you an overview of what happened the day before for our single alert at 10:30 a.m. Eastern time. We're going to go through any market news, earnings, data from this morning and last night. We're going to look at market direction using the opening range and VWAP, a couple of moving averages. We're going to look at some key intraday levels on SPY. We're going to look at the expected move and potential volatility, how that's looking this morning. And then if there's time or there's any trade opportunities that present themselves a little bit later on here, we'll see if we can take a trade. It's very difficult to time the trade opportunities though with the session like this. So we almost had one yesterday. If you guys were watching yesterday, we did have an opening range breakout right as I was talking, but it was difficult to catch. But hopefully some of you guys actually managed to trade the opening range breakout yesterday. So here's a recap of SPY ATM. This is a service that I help run. It's basically a single zero DTE trade on SPY, basically at 10:30 Eastern time. And it comes out in a Discord channel. You can see on the left there that it was a call alert yesterday. Unfortunately, if you were trading yesterday, you noticed yesterday it was kind of choppy, and we actually timed the entry for this a bit off. So we did actually rally shortly after this, but the call, which was a 686 call, entry at 171, take profit 205, or stop loss at 102. Unfortunately, it didn't work out yesterday. So we're at about a 50% win rate for this week on SPY ATM alerts. I'm not too worried because we've got a historical 80% win rate over 2 years. So it's just a little bit of a drawdown at the moment. But you can see on the right there what actually happened. At 10:30, we bought the call, and then we had a bit of a sell-off on the 1 minute chart there. So we ended up taking a loss on that trade yesterday. So it's not always winners, but the last couple of days have been tough with SPY ATM alert. Just looking at the questions here, the chat. So succession planning process, I almost never trade on Fridays because it seems to be a very volatile day more often than not. Any thoughts? Yeah, I agree. Fridays are difficult, so I actually tend to avoid Fridays too. And this chat room is only live Monday to Thursday, so we're not going to be trading tomorrow for sure, at least in the morning market mixer. We'll see what happens tomorrow. But yeah. Overnight news this morning. So today's kind of a boring day. Basically, there was initial jobless claims this morning at 8:30. It was the biggest scheduled catalyst of the day. Usually jobless claims are watched closely as a signal of labour market strength. And what happened this morning wasn't very much. We did see a bit of a sell-off right after, but really nothing too dramatic or too exciting, nothing to write home about. I think there's a Fed Vice Chairman Bowman speaking today at 1:15, but I'm not 100% sure if I've got that right. Maybe you guys can check as well. Either way, it's probably not going to move the markets that much. Again, today we've gone through this week a little bit, but there's really no earnings worth talking about unless you're trading individual tickers. This is the earnings hub. Just have a quick look again. So Thursday before open, we had these guys, and then after we have Costco. I mean, that's something to look for, but really nothing that will move the markets in particular. And then it looks like nothing tomorrow for Friday, so no earnings tomorrow at all. So nothing to worry about in terms of moving SPY. No Nvidia, no Apple, no Microsoft, nothing crazy like that. So we're good to go on the earnings front of things here. Yeah, so let's get into some details. Let's see what's happening in the market. So kind of a boring open today. We sold off a little bit overnight, and so we're below the 50 SMA still, so it's not exactly bullish, but we are above the 100 SMA. We opened pretty much on the 100 SMA, so it's kind of acting as support at the moment. We'll have a look at the charts in just a sec. So really though, after a couple of interesting days, this has kind of been a boring day so far. I know it's early on, but we do have that support at the 100 SMA. We'll go and check the charts here and see how we're doing now. After my preparation this morning, could have changed a little bit. So let's go over and have a look at the charts here. Looks like we're still roughly in the same area that we were earlier. So let's have a look here. So this is the daily chart on SPY. The orange line is the 100 SMA. The green line is the 50. You can see the last couple of days have been much more dramatic. So a couple of days ago, we had that dramatic sell-off all the way down to the December 17th support. And then yesterday, we had the up on sort of optimism that Iran was in talks with the US to kind of chill out about the whole war thing. So yesterday was exciting as well. Today has been really tight. It's actually 0.47, so 0.47%, which means a trending day is much more likely because a tight opening range often indicates a trend. So to me, this is looking like a bullish day so far, but let's drop down to the 30-minute chart here. And remember, trend days are pretty rare. I think they only happen about 25% of the time. So it's just because we have a tight opening range that suggests potentially a trend day doesn't by any means actually mean we're definitely going to have a trend day. But you can see we did break out of the 30-minute opening range here and marked them up. So the first two lines here, this one at 684.5 is the top of the 30-minute candle. So we're looking at the 30-minute chart now. The bottom is at 681.82. And we did actually break out of the opening range right as it went live here. So it's not completely accurate. We want to move this guy up a little bit on this first 30-minute candle. So that's the problem with doing one of these live chat rooms is like by the time you actually mark something up, things have moved slightly. So I'm moving it up a little bit. Nevertheless, we're still at about a 0.5% opening range. So pretty tight. So we did wick above it on the next chart. So if we drop down to the 5-minute here, it gives a better picture. We did actually wick above the opening range here. Move is, by the way, is plus or minus. Let me just check. I think it's 5. So actually 4.4. So 4.4. for the expected move, which is marked up the top here, is 688, and down the bottom here is bottom red line, 6.5. So that's the expected move, where you'd expect the market to be about 70% of the time for the day. So looking here, we're not getting a lot of interesting action. We're still kind of in the upper range of the opening range here, so still potentially could break out to the upside here. I marked up the numbers on the slides here, so just kind of put that up on the screen while talking here. So yeah, so these are the expected move numbers. The opening range changed a little bit. VIX is still around 22, so it's a little bit elevated. Let's go and have a look at VIX here. So it's on its way down from its recent 28, which is nice. And like I said yesterday, this is very typical of VIX. When it spikes, it almost always comes back down. So a lot of people can rely on that for trades, right? To basically trade against volatility when it spikes like that up to 28, and then it's on its way back down here nicely. And that's probably again because the Iran talks. It's kind of people are relaxing a little bit more about the whole war situation. So we'll see if that comes back down. Maybe next week comes back down to be a much more tolerable level below about 20 or so. So that would be good to see VIX come back down. It's a double-edged sword, right? Premiums are elevated when VIX is higher, but you're likely to get more tradable moves throughout the day. So it could be a double-edged sword with VIX. So let's go back to SPY here and see if there's anything happening on the opening range stuff. Let's switch back. So let's put VWAP on here and see what it looks like. So I'm going to hide the moving averages and just add VWAP to the session. Got a question yesterday, was where do you find VWAP? Well, it's in the indicators at the top here. Type in VWAP in case any of you guys did it to your charts before. They're really useful indicators. So at the moment, we're right in the middle of the range and we're below VWAP. So just in no man's land at the moment on this any sort of trade. And you can see why earlier, candle right here, this 5-minute candle, that you want to wait for a close because it often wicks out like this. So I'm looking for something that closes above the opening range here. Doesn't just wick above it because you can see that was a total fake out. So I'm looking, if I'm looking for the upside, I'm looking for a close above and a close above the opening range. And of course, if it's above the opening range, it's most likely going to be above VWAP anyway. But it's kind of two markers that I look for on these opening range breakouts. And what I've talked about this week since we started these sessions is basically I'm also looking for confluence from some proprietary levels called the SRX indicator that we use to scalp SPY every day as well. And so if there's one of those key levels that corresponds to the top of the opening range, for example, that makes things a little bit more tricky because they often act as resistance. So we're going to have a quick look at that now and see where those levels actually are, because it helps as confluence for these opening range breakouts. So I'm going to add those to the chart, and you'll see those. Looks kind of messy sometimes. But you can see part of the problem here is this blue zone is one of the key SRX levels. And these are derived from options data in a really clever way. It takes a lot of computing power to calculate these levels. And I found them to be really, really useful. So this one is called S1. So it's the first support level. But really, these can be used as support and resistance. So now that we're below the 8 moving average and below the SRX S1 level, this is starting to look more bearish, right? But we are still in the middle of this range, so let's kind of watch it for a couple of minutes here, maybe on the 1-minute chart, and see and look for a breakdown below the bottom of the opening range, down at right here, 681.8. So yeah, it's pretty useful, these levels, pretty helpful to see. So the fact that we have one right in the middle of the opening range also makes things a little more interesting. So let's look at the 1-minute chart, see what's going on. I'll hide the SRX levels again here because now we know it's there. It's pretty much in the middle of the opening opening range. Try and simplify the charts a little bit, make it look a little bit easier. So yeah, so we're below VWAP now in the 1 minute, getting down towards the bottom range. What I'm looking for here, and it might not happen in the next 5 minutes or so, is a breakdown of the bottom. Ideally, it'll break down and then retest it and then have another deep red candle, and that would be the entry for me on an opening range breakout. I generally don't play them as they break down initially through that bottom of the range, for example, just because it can be a bit of a fake out. I'd rather have a test, like a retest. So breakdown, comes back up, retests it, then prints a big bearish candle, then an entry for a short. So that's kind of what I'm looking for after the session finishes, if it doesn't happen in the next few minutes. So hopefully that'll give you guys a trade idea going forward. If there's any questions or if you want more iteration on where these lines are, just let me know in chat and I'll highlight where they are so you guys can mark up your charts as well. Since a lot of these trades seem to work out, they work out usually right after the session, or like yesterday. If we go back to yesterday's SPY chart here. Compress it a little bit more so we don't have to drag it too far. Okay. So yesterday we went up to the expected. I think that's the expected move. Yeah, this opening range breakout right near the end of the session, and then we had this expected move that I drew at 10 minutes before market open using the at the money straddle, and it actually respected it pretty well throughout the day. Even though the expected move changes, obviously, it's a changing in the names throughout the day. Anyway, let's go back to today's. Looks like a head and shoulders on the 1 minute. This is looking pretty bearish. There we go. There's a break on the 1 range. I used the 5 minute candle though, so we did this 5 minute candle. So you got to be careful this doesn't wick below. Let me check. I've got my brokerage open and stuff. There might actually be a quick trade here today. The timing might actually work out for once. So I'm looking at my brokerage at the moment, and I'm looking at the money puts. So around 682, 682 strike for today. So 0 DTE obviously, since this whole thing's about. I'm just going to get those loaded up and see if there's a potential trade here. It's going to be a few more minutes before there'd be a potential trade. So I feel like I've got enough time to kind of set up here. So just give me a minute while I do that. Obviously, if you're going to take this trade, it's at your own risk. I highly suggest you use some of your own technicals in conjunction with this idea to potentially enter a trade if you're going to do it. I do like to wait for the retest though, so it makes it kind of difficult in this time session to actually enter a trade. But I have the 682 puts lined up. I'm getting ready to watch the chart here. Let's see. So we wicked below in the 1 minute. We still have a minute candle to go. So let's see. There we go. I might just take a trade since I haven't taken one this week. So I'll go back to the 5 minute if we get a close below here. Looks like we might. Very close at least. 1 more minute. I'll probably take this trade. I may not be able to stay on the call long enough to manage it with you guys though. But this is looking like a nice breakdown of the opening range with a move potentially to the downside. Let me just check SRX here, see if there's any. See, that is a warning sign for me. See how we have a support line just below here? We may not get much downside movement if that acts as support. So it's kind of a higher risk trade here. Let's see if this as it opens. This is why it's difficult to time the opening range breakout, right? Because we've already moved significantly down. That's why I prefer to wait for a retest. But just for fun, I'll take a small position if the next, depending on what the next candle opens at. This is what makes it so hard to time though, right? Especially, there we go. All right, I'm just going to enter a trade here. So I'm going to pull the trigger on the 682 puts and see how this goes. All right, so I entered here. I have a profit target of 10 to 20%, depending on the price action, and a stop loss of 20% as well. So I have no idea if this trade's going to work out or not. I don't like the fact that we have that S support right there. I'll probably stop if it enters the opening range here. So yeah. Anyway, that's going to be my trade for the day. Hopefully you guys can watch this for a retest, or maybe you're going to take the higher risk trade here to the downside. We'll see how this goes. I'm going to switch back to the 1 minute here. See, I'll hang around for 5 minutes. Kind of boring just watching the chart, but I'll just kind of hang around and see if we get some more push to the downside. But like I said, this is what I'd consider a higher risk trade. Maybe we see a retest here, I don't know. But we do have that. Look how well that was respected, unfortunately, for me at least, even though I'm only in with 2 contracts. So it's a very low risk trade for me in terms of money. You can see how we actually did support that SRX level really well there. And that's what I was saying I was worried about would happen. So this isn't looking super strong for me right now. But I'll stop out if we re-enter the opening range here. So yeah. Any questions, guys? I see there's a few people watching. So succession planning pro saying, talk about the 682 versus the 681 since we're doing a put. It doesn't matter too much. They're both about delta 50, right? So it doesn't matter a huge amount which one you enter if you're going to take this trade. I'm not super confident in this trade, so if you're not in, I'll just hold off on this, just because we are at this key level. I'll get a lot more excited if we see this key level break to the downside. We did get an indication there that might happen, but it's anybody's guess whether we get a break here or if we actually bounce off of it. There we go. Maybe we'll get to the downside here. Let me check my position here. There we go. We're getting a break of that. That's good. I'm about 5% at the moment. I think I'm going to scalp this. So I'm going to bring this down to 10% exit here, because I'm not liking the fact that we're at that key level. It's probably a silly move for me. But we're right in the middle of the zone, the SRX indicator. So hopefully, let's see, SRX level is going to switch that off again. Try and be patient with this. Just need another little push, and I'll take that 10%. There we go. Oh, there we go. I got filled. Sweet. All right. So just taking that little bite. I moved my take profit down there just because we're at that SRX level, and it was kind of a silly move. But we are a bit, so maybe that SRX level is going to fail, and we'll actually get some profits. So yeah, just a quick little scalp there. I think that's probably it for the day. We're still going down here, so hopefully anybody that's still in here would have got a little bit more out of that move. But pretty small move. All right, so back to the end slide. Let me know in the chat if you did scalp that. I mean, it's a very small move, but it's pretty fun to do. All right, so basically tomorrow I'm not going to be live, so I'll be back on Monday. I'll post the link to the cheat sheet again here. Let's see, the cheat sheet is TradeThirsty. www.tradethirsty.com/MMM. There you go. So that's the cheat sheet for you guys. Hopefully somebody took a little scalp on that trade. It was a little bit hairy there, just because I probably chanced it a little bit with that support level there. And it looks like we are reversing again, so I'm glad I moved my take profit. But yeah, so anyway, hopefully that's helpful, and I will talk to you guys on Monday.